neither attached nor not attached. Neither attached nor not attached. That's possible. So you can't actually have a position on it. Then you can fundamentally see what it is because you're no longer separating yourself from it in terms of I like it, I don't like it. So when people come in and say, well, I'm not going to do that, all you're doing is saying, you know, I'm not really ready to leave third grade yet. I know this sounds critical or judgmental or whatever, but I don't know how else to describe it. Because if you want to really practice this path, it seems to be necessary. And the forms we do here are nothing compared to what the Tibetans do. They're just, I mean, the Zen forms are strong, and there are a lot of them, but the Tibetan forms are extremely formal and precise and accurate and just drive ego crazy because they're so fussy. Anything else about forms or chanting sutras or... So what I'm saying here is when we first started doing chanting here, we didn't even require that you stand up. The people who have been practicing for a while just wanted to participate and wanted to do the entire form, so they did that. And then I don't know how long, maybe a year ago, we started having people stand up. But you're still not required to chant or do anything. You don't have to gasho or bow. You don't have to do any of it. Some of us do, some of us don't. And so Zen in America. Zen in America is, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a Zen guy, so as far as I'm concerned, we need to take our time doing this and allow the people whose cultural conditioning that they come out of Battle Creek, Michigan, that cultural conditioning that we make plenty of room so people can come in here, because if you make it too tight, nobody's going to come in at all. And also if you make it too tight, then it's only going to be people who are looking for some form to latch onto, and that's not going to be helpful to them. So making it open so that a person can actually, through their own intelligence, their own insight, can say, well, let me see what this is like to prostrate for a while. I have students, none of them are here right now, but I have students who don't even particularly consider themselves Buddhists, but have been practicing for 20 years. And I have them doing forms. But I do it with them in mind. I say, try this for a while. Do prostrate to your altar. You have an altar? Yes, I have an altar. Well, prostrate to your altar before you sit. 3 times. Say I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. Knowing that taking refuge in the Buddha means I take refuge in the example of someone who is sane. I take refuge in the Dharma means I take refuge in the truth that he taught, which is the basic one that I like to emphasize. Is nothing is dependent, and nothing is outside of the dependency of everything else. So nothing is separated as its own separate ego or being. Everything gets its particular identity from everything else. And the third one is refuge in the Sangha, the community of people that are trying to understand what this figure, who this figure represents, actually was talking about, not to mention all the other teachers. So, and in this way, the person was able to see, yeah, this is helpful to using your body, speech, and mind. These combinations that are very hard to track. Seeing how that would further inform the sitting practice, further inform and expand or clarify those other areas. Sitting only goes so far. Reading only goes, conceptual only goes so far. You can become a scholar and never sit and be absolute, what do they used to call it, brainiac? Was that a little machine, brainiac?
It was a big machine.
Oh, okay, big machine. So you can really know a lot by way of information, or you can really work with your awareness, but it seems to take a little of this, a little of that, middle way kind of material approach. Yes, Koshi.
Yeah, and if I may, to just address that, because it is a good point, but the reason why it's different, the reason why we wouldn't say, in my opinion anyway, we wouldn't say Zen in China is because it's sort of Chan, and that's going to be just it, more or less. I think the unique thing that's happening here is that you have all the different cultural traditions kind of happening at the same time, and not just that, but you got Tibetan Buddhism, you got, Pure Land Buddhism, you got all these different traditions, practicing here. And so, I mean, that's my help. It's not supposed to, I'm not trying to like make some sort of homogenous Zen. Like I want to show, how diverse it is. So that's all.
But this culture has a particular communication that is going out, and it's pretty much go west, young man, and you can change that today to just go. And that is kind of the basic thing here, and I'm wondering how this how Zen is going to relate to that go.
Just like this. And just like any other place where you find someone who has some kind of understanding and is willing to sit in a position like this and help people connect with this ancient spiritual path. And there's no way you can disregard the culture. We can't disregard the fact that some people are driving great distances just to come here, several hours to come here. And then there's thousands of people in this town that might even know about this but don't have any interest. They're busy doing whatever they're doing. So it's just a few people here and there. It seems to be different with every temple that I've been to, and I've been involved in this for 40 years. So it'll be really interesting to see what all the different. If you go on YouTube, YouTube or Google or anything like that, and look at everything that's available, it's just amazing. There's just so many different teachers and teachings, and some of them have some teachers. I'm thinking in particular of Shinzen Young. He's got 4,000 or 5,000 people looking at his videos on YouTube. That's a lot. Thousands of people are listening. Further questions? We have a few minutes left. Yes. Goes on.
How would you, given that there's so many different ways to practice Zen in America, for somebody who's just curious about Buddhism, how would you describe the distinctions between practicing Zen in America compared to Tibetan Buddhism or Theravada, if you know much about it?
Different. It's Buddhism. It's just different forms coming out of hundreds of years of cultural isolation. The Buddhist teachings came in, and then it was through different ways, and there was different flavorings came from, as far as Tibetan Buddhism came out of the ancient Indian yogic tradition, and so lots of different combinations and complementary or trajectories of teachings. And so we're here, and people, we've had people come and look at this situation and go. That's a couple of people come here and study for a short time and go to. They would prefer to study with Theravadan approach because, and when I say because, I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what it is. They probably aren't going to level with me. But they want to have the actual teachings of the Buddha. This is a concept they have. Actual teachings of the Buddha. This is to the Mahayana and so on is a little bit too much added on way after the Buddha passed on. So a little bit more. And I only say this descriptively. It could be more than descriptively, but it's more of a fundamentalist. Let's go back and see what the Buddha said, and forget all this other stuff that's has been added on afterwards, or apparently added on after his life. And then as far as the difference between, say, Zen and Shambhala or Tibetan Buddhism, practice both. I don't see any difference. It's a teaching. It's the Buddhist. It's a teaching of realization, realizing that all the separation you see in your world, all the separation you see in yourself, including the parts of yourself you'd like to get rid of, and the parts of yourself you'd like to have more of, or outside of you, whatever it is, all of that warfare and all of that situation that's happening can be addressed or understood, or the awareness in that area can strengthen using the combination of the teachings, a teacher, someone who has more experience than you and more understanding, someone that inspires you, or you feel like you can BOTD, benefit of the doubt, that you can work with someone that can help you. I mean, a very pragmatic kind of sense. And I know my main connection with Tibetan Buddhism was Trungpa. Meeting him, I mean, I was studying Zen when I met him. I studied with Katagiri Roshi, and also been reading about Zen, mainly Zen, for about 12 years. And some Tibetan Buddhism, but mainly through W.Y. Evans Wentz and early writers on just Tibetan Buddhism. So my connection was there, but when I met him, my connection with him was so overwhelming that I just had to study with him. I didn't have a choice about it. Pretty choiceless for me. So I did that for a long, long period of time until he passed away. And then I was not sure what I was going to do other than keep studying. Then I met Kobun. And then that slowly, not immediately, but slowly that started to change. And I started to look at things a little bit differently. So it's just different vehicles, different ways, different methods of teaching. All are talking about awakening. Even in the other traditions like the Hindu tradition, the Advaita or non-dual tradition,